I'd like to call to order the Hatfield Township Board of Commissioners regular meeting for November 18, 2020. Roll call.
President Zipfel.
Here.
Vice President Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Andrus.
Here.
Commissioner Lees.
Here.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Here.
Our solicitor, John Iannozzi, had an interesting week this week, so he was telling us a little bit about that, and we're very proud that he got through it unscathed, and so we would ask him to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Republic for which liberty and justice for all.
All right, is there a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Rogers, second by Commissioner Andrus. All in favor of approving tonight's agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, hearing no opposition, we can move forward with the agenda before you. Consent items. Is there a motion to move into the record the consent items that are listed in the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lees.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Andrus. Those items include the Board of Commissioners regular meeting minutes of October 28, the Board of Commissioners workshop meeting minutes of November 4, the Treasurer's report for the month of November, and the bills payable, paid bills, none, and unpaid bills, $370,959.04. And with that, I'll call the question. All in favor of moving those into the record, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, that is, consent items are moved into the record. Citizens' comments. Citizens' comments on agenda items. Tonight we have a number of items and then also the presentation of our draft budget. And so after that, for those of you who are still with us, I'm teasing. After that, we'll open it up. We'll open up the floor to the public as well. So unless either one of you, because there's only 2 residents with us, have anything in citizens' comments, we're going to move on to our action items. Actually, before we do that, Aaron, if you wouldn't mind, I think you have I wanted to congratulate a group in our community that continues to be one of the most charitable groups in Hatfield, and that is the BAPS Charities Food, the Temple right on Township line, not far from here in the Township. They, again, had a food drive. Here's just a quick picture of their charitable donation table. And so they have a brief statement that they put together that they shared with the community, and it goes as follows. While the devastating impact on people's lives and health due to COVID-19 has made 2020 a challenging year, the pandemic has also negatively impacted the economy and financial strength of many. For some, the loss of income has led to food insecurity or caused challenges to having access to nutritious food. In order to help provide nourishing food to those struggling families and individuals, BAPS Charities has decided to dedicate all of its annual food drives to combat food insecurity. The local chapter of BAPS Charities in Souderton, PA, collected canned and dried foods to donate to the local Hatfield food pantry in hopes to continue their effort to support the community. For those of you who don't know, the Hatfield Food Pantry is run by Janet and Gary Haig, the owners of the Christmas Tree Farm that's right on 40-foot Road. They do a fantastic job. And it is for families right here in Hatfield. And so I want to congratulate and thank not only the Haigs for the wonderful work that they do, but also BAPS for donating their, making this year the food pantry the recipient of their food drive. So thank you to both organizations, both great groups, and very proud of them, very pleased that they're both in Hatfield. All right, with that, I'm going to move into the action items. We have 6 tonight. Well, we have 5 action items and then a presentation. And first is Resolution 20-27. Is there a motion for approval with regard to 3120 Penn Street Land Development Approval Extension?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Andrus.
Second.
Second by Vice President Rogers. Ken, do you have this one?
Yes. We discussed this 2 weeks ago at the workshop. This is a project which was approved by the board about a year ago. It sat and nothing was done with it for quite some time. More recently, a new developer is taking over the project. He has successfully taken down the old Finn McCool's building that was on the site, graded the site to make it safer, and put a temporary fence up around the excavation area. He is asking the board to extend the approval for approximately 18 months to allow him to get past the current economic difficulties and be in a better financial position to build the project. At the meeting 2 weeks ago, there was a question raised about the temporary fence and how well that would be maintained. We've corresponded with him, and he's agreed to monitor it for the short term, but put a permanent fence up around for the long term.
Thank you.
Great, that's very good to hear. All right, any questions or
And
comments?
I can add, we do have a signed copy of the resolution from the developer as well.
Okay, that's great, and we're very pleased to hear that developers cleaning up what was otherwise a building that was coming down, and it's been removed, and now they're keeping it safe and then hopefully develop it in the future. So with that, any questions or comments? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor of Resolution 20-27, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. All right, resurfacing the pickleball courts. Is there a motion for approval of resurfacing those courts through Top A Court LLC in the amount of $76,232 as budgeted? Motion by Commissioner Zimmerman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lees. Aaron, I think you have this one.
Sure, this was a project we discussed last year at throughout the budget process. As we know, we have several pickleball courts where the tennis courts used to be down at the Aquatic Center, and this will give the surface 20 years of a professional and safe surface. And just wanted to mention, too, that Tapa Court is a Hatfield-owned business, so we're able to our businesses here. That is currently underway with the project. So this is, like President Zipfel says, this is an item of housekeeping in nature, and in that it's separate from the list of bills the board will consider and approve, and it meets all the best practices.
So will they have that completed before winter sets in?
No. So the project, the paving will be completed, then they'll do the striping in early spring. When the season begins, it'll be done. It'll be ready for them next season.
Aaron, if my memory serves me correctly, that court was not resurfaced before it was converted to a pickleball court, right?
Right, we just painted it.
Painted it.
Right, and then put in the nets. So there's significant cracking that we talked about at budget time, and it's just not safe, and it's our most utilized recreation facility in Hatfield besides the Aquatic Center, without question.
All right, any other questions, comments? I'm certain that the pickleball club is very excited to hear that. So with that, I'll call the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it. Motion is approved. Number 3, action item number 3, ordinance number 693. Is there a motion for approval with regard to the parking restrictions on Orvilla Road from Snyder Square Drive to Tarrington Way and Forest Hills Drive? Motion by Commissioner Andrus, second by Vice President Rogers. Aaron, I think you have this one as well.
Sure, thanks, Mr. President. And by the way, I do have some pictures of the pickleball courts
Oh.
in the current condition. I forgot I had those. You can see, not ideal, but we had 5 years of a relatively good surface. Public Works did a great job in-house converting them from tennis to pickleball. It's just now time to have a professional come in and do it the right way. So that's just a follow-up. The 2 items that the board is considering tonight to modify some parking restrictions in the township both came organically from the residents to the commissioners. One to President Zipfel at Orvilla, the other Forest Hills through Commissioner Andrus. This section of Orvilla is what is being discussed. At this point, the problem was the residents of Tarrington, which you can see right here, are having a hard time getting out in Orvilla because of the sight line, because all the vehicles have been parking in this stretch, and not just vehicles, but large vans and other things, as well as in the evening, since there's not that many street lights in that area, of vehicles traveling this direction, not being able to see them, and was causing a safety issue. So this ordinance will restrict parking from this section of Orvilla from Snyder Square Drive, so the entrance to Snyder Square off of Orvilla to Tarrington Way. That's one item in the ordinance that was advertised last Wednesday. The other is a modification. Currently on Forest Hills Drive, there is no parking allowed on this section, and what was communicated to Commissioner Andrus was the residents would like to be able to park on the street. outside of the times when the buses are coming, obviously. So we modified the restrictions to allow parking outside of the bus times. Commissioner Lees had a good question about the evening times, and other times the buses might be coming through the neighborhood for sports. So we talked to the transportation director at North Penn School District, and we showed the times that we used, and he's comfortable with those. He said at this point for sports, it's all at the school, and parents are picking kids up at the school. So it's not as it was at one point. So good question, and we looked into that, and so everything's ready to roll. Just a small modification in this stretch to allow residents to have some more on-street parking outside of bus times.
All right. Any other questions or comments, commissioners or otherwise? No? Hearing none, I'll then call the question. All in favor of ordinance number 693, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it. Ordinance number 693 is approved. Action item number 4, motion for approval for comprehensive physical evaluations, volunteer fire companies, professional health services in the amount of $28,400 from the Fire Reserve Fund.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lees.
Second.
Second by Vice President Rogers. Aaron, I think you have this one as well.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. President. This is an initiative the commissioners have supported now for several years. This is the second round of physicals for our volunteer firefighters from both Calmer with Commissioner Lees and the Hatfield Fire Company. I think we all know how lucky we are to have a pretty extensive group of volunteers that are providing a very important service. And commissioners want to do everything they can to keep them safe and healthy. So this is just one of many initiatives, and this is gives a comprehensive physical exam to all the volunteers to track their health, to try to flag maybe an indicator that they can reverse, or some early onset of whatever it may be. But it's a good initiative that can be a good wellness ever for the fire company. So every 3 years, we incur this expense from the Fire Reserve Fund.
Right. A fantastic job, and we're very happy to make this a part of our budget. And so with that, unless there's any other questions or comments, I will call the question. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and that motion is approved. Action item number 5, resolution number 20-28. Is there a motion for approval with regard to the North Penn Health Hospital and Education Authority for Salis University refinance, no liability or cost to Hatfield Township?
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Rogers.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Andrus. Aaron, I think you have this one as well.
Thanks, Mr. President. This is one of our 2 financing authorities. We have the IDA, and this is the North Penn Health Hospital Education Authority. Talked about it a little more at length a few weeks ago. These projects come up periodically. The authority itself met in our building last week and approved the project on their end. This is a financing for a renovation of dorms at Salis that was initially financed just a few years ago. So they wanted to take advantage of the lower interest rates, which that move is certainly the township's gain, because this transaction, again, will generate a fee. In this case, it's roughly $13,000, which will go to the authority and then reinvested back into the Hatfield community. One thing, commissioners, we talked about a few months ago about a mural at the Aquatic Center to highlight the diversity and the great aspects of our community. I think this would be a smart group for us to reach out to have that project funded. They've been very cooperative in the past for any type of initiative. They've funded the trail, anything related to education and health-oriented activities. So I planted that seed at the meeting, and I think it'd be important, and based on some feedback, I think it would be great to fund that project without any taxpayer money. And this would be one way to do it, just to give you a heads up on what's coming our way.
All right. Great opportunity. Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, then I'll call the question. All in favor of resolution 20-28, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it. Resolution 2028 passes. Last is the presentation of the 2021 draft budget. It's no tax increase, 7th straight year. Actually, it is an action item. I'm sorry. After the presentation, do we take the motion, or would you like to take the motion now? I think we'll do the presentation and then
First,
the motion, right?
Our legal counsel suggested.
Yep, and we tease our township manager every year about this, but let me be the first to say he does a fantastic job in not only running the entire township, but also with this presentation. Having said that, we're going to hand the ball off to him, and we're hopeful that he's going to keep it within 3 hours.
Thanks, Mr. President. 3 hours or 3 minutes?
3 hours?
3 hour maximum.
I'm going to set the timer. I'm thinking 2.5 hours, so everybody
Take a break,
settle.
we'll take a break
All right.
midway.
Ever see the Gong Show?
I'll be listening for the gong. It's interesting, Commissioners, I was looking through some of my past budget presentations. This is the 8th budget now that I've presented to
Really?
the Hatfield Township community, so time is moving rather quickly. All right, let's settle in here. Ray, did you bring coffee? No? You want some? All right, hold on. Okay, we may need some. May need some. All right. Right here. Commissioners, community, looking forward to present here this 21 Hatfield Township budget, 7th straight, as President Zipfel said, 7th straight budget without a tax increase. The commissioners have done a really good job of managing expenses and providing exceptional services to our community. So before we get into the budget, who is our community? This was a year of discussion of diversity and inclusion. I think it's important to just take a big picture look at the residents we serve. This year there was a census. We don't have those figures out yet, unfortunately. We will get those soon. As of 19, we're a community of just shy of 18,000 residents. We have over 1,200 businesses here in Hatfield. And 1 out of every 5 residents that you bump into in Hatfield was born in another country. And I think that's important to know and to understand as we come up with ways to deliver services to this community. 2/3 of residents own a home. Median income as of 2019 is a little over $70,000, and 4.6% of our resident population lives in poverty. We began the year off on a positive note. We welcomed Commissioner Zimmerman, Commissioner Lees at the swearing in at the beginning of the year. Commissioner Andrews began his 5th term as a commissioner, and we're lucky to have the 3 of them. So some of the challenges we faced in 2020, not unique to Hatfield by any means. We were all in this one together, but still significant nonetheless. Among the challenges, delivering services during a global pandemic. We've had social justice and police reform issues, and then Tropical Storm Isaias on top of that. So I say man plans while God laughs, an old saying. Basically what it says is life is pretty unpredictable. So we come into the year and we have all of these great ideas for 2020, and we spent March, April, May canceling the aquatic center, our assessments with police that go out to meet with businesses, summer camp, in-person races, Rocktoberfest, bus trips, Dagapalooza, our Santa event, Mini Monster Mania, indoor pickleball, several coffee with a cop events, police officers reading in schools, all of these canceled because of COVID-19. So we tried to revamp, pivot, regroup, and say how can we provide some different and unique services to the community in this during these conditions. So we've turned lemons into lemonade. We decided let's recognize our healthcare workers. Let's build more community partners. Virtual Parks and Rec programming. We did an Easter Bunny visit, food pantry donations, mask donations, drive-through graduations. So let's look at some of those. We went out to Lansdale Hospital with the commissioners and the volunteer fire companies and the police officers, and we thanked the nurses and the doctors that were on the front lines of this pandemic. The police officers met nurses and other healthcare workers at their homes while they were finishing a shift. We did this 20 to 30 times this year, and we're met with crying residents grateful for the showing of support by our police officers. Commissioner Lee's and Commissioner Zimmerman's idea of an Easter bunny, at that time, people were locked in their homes. People were struggling. Commissioner Lees at the Calmer Fire Department was able to help us facilitate and get the Easter bunny, something that, you know, most years you think that's just the routine item. We saw tears. We saw a lot of residents coming out of their house, it seems like, you know, for the first time in months, and it was a fun event. that we made our community smile is important. President Zipfel said, hey, our high school graduates weren't allowed to have graduation this year. What can we do for them? We came up with the drive-through graduation ceremony where our commissioners came and our public emergency services came, and we allowed the graduates to drive through and we recognized them. This is what it looked like a little bit. But one of many cars that were able to come through and get a little bit of joy out of a really rough year. Virtual Parks and Rec. So most of the Parks and Rec, it's all about people. It's all about engaging and getting around our community and enjoying certain things. You couldn't do that. So Ashley and her team did a great job, led by Commissioner Zimmerman. Let's do things to engage our community in a safe way. We did trivia nights, park puzzles, pumpkin contests, holiday, a lot of good pumpkin carving, by the way, I heard. Holiday light contest, gingerbread house contest, giving tree, storybook series, virtual exercise classes. Here's a shot of a family that decided to run the actual course by themselves, and they came up with a pretty good finish line with some masks hanging there. Storybook series. Residents submitted their pictures that they put together, just a way to engage through Facebook to provide a little bit of light in this dark year. We had some concerts that were then with masks and distance, a different look, but still something. Community outpouring of support when this began. One business in particular, Hardy Machine, but many others came out and donated food to the police department, which we then took to the food pantry that President Zipfel talked about earlier tonight at the Church of the Brethren. Every other day that seemed to be we were at capacity and taking food over there. We were reached out by the North Penn baseball team came out. This is the Parks Board that came out. There were dozens of groups that said, hey, we want to be involved and we want to help you and be a partner. And this is just one example. Police department taking it to the food pantry and doing this on a weekly basis to provide food for the people in our community that lost a job or suffered otherwise from the pandemic. More community donations, the American Legion, other PPEs being donated to our police. One of our favorite residents, Mr. Masser, donating masks to our police department. One of my favorite pictures from 2020, I think, represents what our police department is all about, led by Chief Tierney. In a time where all eyes were on the police across the country and talking about reform and defunding, we have a police department that's not stubborn. We have a police department that's willing to understand our community and to take a knee and understand when people are hurting. And it's not time to pound your chest, but it's time to embrace, it's time to understand, and it's time to take a knee. And we thankfully are led by the right person that has been doing this for years. And this is a partnership with the NAACP. This is a picture from years ago. My point is that we didn't just start doing this in 2020. This is just part of the culture we have here in Hatfield. So as we worked our way through the pandemic and social unrest, Mother Nature decided to punch us in the face yet again, and we had Tropical Storm Isaias, Produce Junction. This is what it looked like during the storm. This is what it looked like. Lenhart Road, 309. Flooding that we have not seen in Hatfield Township. Damaging many businesses, many homes. There were people that had to be rescued from their house. There were people that couldn't go back to their house that were homeless. And thankfully, because of community partnerships, advanced living specifically, we were able to provide housing for people on a short-term basis at no cost until they were able to get back on their feet. This is our bridge at Frick's Trail off of Orvilla. You can't even see it. That's how significant the flooding was. This is Walnut Street, looking at Dorman Products. And again, a hard event, a tough event, but then the heroes come back in. This is Commissioner Lee's fire department at Calmer. You see President Brian Seward, who we all got to know very well during the building project. He's in there on a boat rescuing the family that couldn't get out of their house. This is just another example of when crisis happens, all these public servants are there to help. Some bright moments in 2020. We opened the Hatfield Museum with a rainbow, leading us to hopefully a pot of gold. We saw our most talked about and our largest issue transportation-wise, and we have a nice little scene of, want to see what it looks like to build a road? Here's about 10 pictures a day for the last 4 months. You get to see it paved, the sidewalks going in. Hopefully now we're in a position where the road's going to open in the next week or so. You all know why the moments you see where there's not much activity. We talked about that over the past few months, but pretty neat. We were able to put a construction camera next to it, and because it's 2020, the first camera we put up there malfunctioned and was recalled. So we had to mount another one, and we missed the very beginning of the project. The camera was there. We were on top of it. Commissioner Rogers had this idea a long time ago. Unfortunately, it malfunctioned. But we still got a lot of good shots, and now you see a road almost ready to be open to our community after years of effort by the commissioners and years of strategic and partnership building and relationship building and moving out residents. And we all know the Herculean effort that it took to get to this point, which people don't realize as you drive through. But we know behind the scenes how hard it was to get here. Said goodbye to one of our sergeants who was here for 30 years, Sergeant Woodford. In 2020, we paved over $750,000 worth into the roads, 2 slides worth of roads. For the last 10 years, you see all the roads we paved and all the investment the commissioners have made into the infrastructure in Hatfield Township. You see a lot of colors. Keep in mind too, Cowpath, Unionville, or Villa, state roads. So we're getting to the point where all these roads have been paved. We're on a 15-year program, and we're right on track thanks to the funding by the commissioners. Over $15 million in the last 10 years in the roads, ramps, bridges, traffic improvements. So looking forward to 21. Quick shot of the organizational chart. What is important here is that at the top of this chart are the residents of Hatfield. They're the ultimate decision makers, the ultimate stakeholders. They're why we exist. All the boards that the commissioners oversee, all of these boards are run by volunteer Hatfield Township residents appointed by our commissioners. We run a sewer authority, a civil service commission, parks and rec, planning commission, zoning hearing board, pool advisory board, shade tree commission, EAC, IDA, the North Penn Health Hospital Education, which we talked about tonight, 1 rep to the North Penn Water Authority, and a vacancy board. So all of these boards consist of 5 to 7 people, residents that serve for no pay at all, just because they want to contribute to the community. Boards that staff works with on a daily basis, weekly basis, all important part of our organization, all overseen by the Hatfield commissioners. When you look at our 2021 budget, there's a saying, if you want to know what's important to an organization, you don't necessarily listen to them, what they're saying. You look at the budget. That's the bottom line and what is the mission and what's important to an organization. What's important to the Hatfield commissioners is public safety. 60% of this budget in 21 goes to fund fire protection, police protection. The remaining 40% is made up of roughly 25% in the infrastructure improvement, the paving, stormwater management, maintaining our roads. The remaining in the parks and rec, open space. So moving forward, our general fund budget, roughly a little over 11.4 million. Overall budget, all funds just shy of $15 million controlled by the Board of Commissioners. Every penny spent by the taxpayers is accounted for on this chart. If you're interested in more of the details and the more of the lines, in this packet is every single penny spent and accounted for. A budget is also in the lobby and on the website, available at any time to be reviewed. Primary sources of revenue coming in, and this applies to pretty much every local government in Pennsylvania. Real estate taxes is the big chunk. Earned income tax, the next one. Local service tax, that $1 per week for the employees that work in the town, $52 a year, and then contributions from the Commonwealth and Hatfield Borough. It looks like this. So without question, the biggest chunk is real estate and then earned income tax. Remember, earned income tax is 0.5% for residents of Hatfield Township. You have to live in the town to contribute. So again, no increase for 21. Where do your real estate taxes go? So we hear all the time when people are paying their real estate bill, they're not actually understanding where that money goes, because it's collected by the same tax collector, right? So 9% of what you pay in real estate comes to the township. 81% of it goes to the school district, and then 10% to the county for those services. So keep that in mind as you're paying your real estate taxes. This millage rate has stayed the same now for the past 7 years. Where we are compared to every other town in the county, residents pay a little less than half of the county compared to other municipalities in the county, and our businesses are a little higher because remember, we have a very aggressive homestead exemption for our residents, and businesses do not pay anything besides real estate taxes. There is no business privilege tax, so that's one way to make it somewhat equitable. An example of real estate tax. Median assessed home in Hatfield is about $149,000 assessed, so they're paying roughly a little over $365 a year. Earned income tax, again, is that half of 1%. The other half goes to the school district. Median amount of money invested into Hatfield from that, $367. So that's how the money comes in. When the money goes out, like we talked about, you see the largest share of that is without question police. And then you add the fire protection and public works, and that's a significant amount of the budget. Only a 2% increase in this 21 budget from 2020, even despite a significant increase to the pension. So commissioners have contained the costs that they can contain. So looking at even a bigger picture here, your entire tax profile for a median resident in Hatfield Township. Let's assume your income in your house is $63,000. You add a median assessed value for your home. Overall tax picture, you can see the majority of your taxes still goes to the school district. Slightly less goes to the federal government, then to Pennsylvania, then to the county and township from there. So for your investment in the residents here in Hatfield, the median investment of $729 a year, all in. Earned income tax, real estate tax is what you get in return for that $700 in services is an accredited police department with 29 officers, fire protection by 2 active and excellent volunteer fire companies. You get 12 public works employees that remove snow, fix stormwater issues, pave roads, paint the roads, maintain signals, school flashers, bridges, maintain and mow almost 200 acres a week. We have Parks and Rec, 2 full-time employees, plus all the seasonal employees who provide the services that we talked about. The award-winning aquatic center, a fantastic school road park, Clemens Park, what Clemens Park will look like over time, Schweiker Park, what the new resurfaced pickleball courts will look like in the spring, Walnut Street Cabin, Tree Nursery, Melody Brook Park, Nature Preserve, Stratford Park, a dog park, an arboretum, street hockey, preserved open space, trail system, Chestnut, Fricks. Compare that to the other levels of government, the county, federal, and the state, and I think we all feel pretty confident the township has done a pretty good job providing those services for that amount of investment. Looking forward to 21, just highlights, no tax increase, 2% increase in expense, maintaining police, a lot of paving of roads, 2 new digital signs coming to one at School Road Park, one at the Public Works facility on Unionville. We're going to be doing a feasibility study for the Liberty Bell Trail, thanks to a grant and a partnership with other towns. We'll be paving School Road Park, the parking lot, and all of the trails, so updating that park. We'll be putting in a new mural that we talked about at the Aquatic Center, and we'll begin a design for a new police station. Some of the economic development projects coming our way. Clemens Food Group is expanding. The warehouse facilities that we were talking about last week on Township Line Road that we'll discuss more next month. The North Penn Business Park at Sterling. If you've driven up 309 recently, you'll see that that building is almost up, and it's significant. Some residential developments are coming our way. The commissioners have already approved, and Ralph's Corner will continue to redevelop. Some other projects, Commissioner Andrus is one of his favorites. We're going to see next year the traffic signals synchronized, the 11 along the 463 corridor. So all 40-foot, cow path to line. All those signals will be talking to each other and working better in 21. Project that we've talked about in this community for 100 years is coming our way in 21. The 309 Sumney Town Connector Road goes to bid early 21. So what was called the Piedmont Expressway in 1960, and our buddy, former Commissioner Bill Forst, brought up every meeting. And unfortunately, he won't be here to see it, but it's coming our way in '21. So what happens now, Commissioners? We're going to post the budget. It's already out there in the lobby. We'll do a public notice. So if any resident would like to come in and make any comments until the next meeting, they certainly have the ability to do so. And then the Commissioners will consider the votes at the December meeting. And just lastly, just want everyone to know that we as staff, Commissioners, we are absolutely honored to work and protect and serve this community. And together we are all Hatfield strong. Thank you for your time tonight, Commissioners. I got it in under 20 minutes. And thank you.
Well done.
Best out of the 8.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I know if Tina and Bob were here, they would be clapping loudly for you, and rightly so. I have a couple of comments, but anyone else want to jump in first? Commissioners or residents?
Revenue will outpace it. We will grow. Revenue will come in at a more than 2% rate. So it's going to be absorbed just by growing income.
So I have two quick comments. I usually try and sum up the budget in some sentence or two, and I've said this in the past, and I'll use it again this year. It seems very clear that it is the same great services for the same great price, and we're very pleased about that. The second point that I want to make, which is, I think, much more important, not much more important, but equally as important as the first one, is that as much as our township manager lauds the commissioners here, the truth is that him and his staff are the ones who run the township, and our consultants, and they are the ones that do such a fantastic job. We are, our role is decision makers. And I say it from time to time. We don't have offices here. Our positions are unpaid. We help guide the decision making. And I say that because the real heavy lifting, the running of this township and all of the fantastic things that you saw there are done by our township manager, Aaron Bebro, and the consultants and his entire staff. And I've been on this board for a number of years, and I have to tell you, I'm overwhelmed and impressed every year about how fantastic our staff is. Remarkably proud to be not just a commissioner, but also a resident. And on behalf of all those residents, I want to thank each and every one of you, and especially Aaron and your leadership. And so thanks, another fantastic job, and looking forward to another great year. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to all the Commissioners for all your support throughout the year.
Any other questions or comments? All right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to entertain a motion to advertise the ordinance that you just heard for budget adoption and maintaining tax rates for 2021. Is there such a motion for the presentation, based on the presentation of the 2021 draft budget, no tax increase, 7th straight year? Motion by Commissioner Andrus, second by Vice President Rogers. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion to advertise, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion is approved. All right, again, thank you, Aaron, everyone, all of our consultants and staff. Very proud of you. Thank you very much. All right, citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments on agenda items or otherwise? Yes, Bill, please. Thank you for coming out.
Name's William Leisner. I live at 1556 Schwab Road. I noticed that the Christmas tree lighting is not going to be done this year by the Chambers of Commerce. And I understand that they're going to be joining Indian Valley Chambers of Commerce. So what happens to the Christmas tree lighting that used to happen in Hatfield?
Good question. Chamber of Commerce is a separate entity, of course, but we just learned of, or I just learned of this today, in the sense that there might not be a Christmas tree lighting through the Hatfield Chamber this year, and I don't know what the foreseeable future is. But in advance of this meeting, I know that there's been some conversation with Mr. Bebro to see what we can do this year in particular for the holiday season. So I don't want to commit to anything because it's just literally just a few hours ago that we started to have some conversation, and I don't want to get out over my skis. But there's some ideas that are being floated around, and Bill, I'm very happy to share those with you as we go through them. What will be in the very short order, because if we're going to plan something, obviously it would need to be done quickly.
Yeah, I think it's something that the community needs. I mean, pandemic and then just tightening a noose on tighter every day. It's,
I want to thank you for reaching out to our township manager to let him know that you were going to be here tonight, because it started a conversation that had not started. And without that, you got us having conversations about, like I said, having an opportunity to do something great for the community. And so greatly appreciate your kickstarting that.
there's a Hatfield community group on Facebook that I'm part of, and people were saying about it not happening, and they were complaining and all this. It's like, well, come out to the meeting. But as you can see,
Thanks for coming out, Bill. And again, thanks for kickstarting that. All right, any other citizens' comments?
One comment, Aaron, one thing you neglected to put in the presentation was that our police department actually, earlier on in the pandemic,
Oh, yes.
that was not mentioned. And I
Right.
know they did it twice, I believe.
Police and fire.
Police and fire. So, shout out to the police department and fire departments for,
Good point, Commissioner. I know that there were some generous donations made by some residents and people very involved in our organization to help those efforts. But you're right, that was one of many. They did such a good job this year that it was hard to highlight them all. But I appreciate you reminding us.
All right, anything else? Ray, anything? All right, if there's nothing else, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Andrus.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lees. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thanks for coming out, folks. Have a great Thanksgiving.